Bridget Jones, it's time to live.
Hey, what's up? My name is Dave, and as you know, I interpret everything. And as you could probably have guessed, I am interpreting Bridget Jones, Mad About a Boy, which is the latest installment, probably the last installment in the Bridget Jones franchise. Once again, starring Bridget Jones herself, Renee Zellweger, in a story that's ultimately about her trying to discover single parentage after her husband, played by Colin Firth, has since passed away. She's now a little bit older, she doesn't really understand the dating scene anymore, but she also understands one of the biggest things that she needs to figure out how to do is learn how to live in general. So she decides to be a little bit of a cougar and start dating this younger guy named Rockstar or something like that. All the while, Hugh Grant is still alive and kicking in this film as well, and he's kind of a caregiver slash babysitter for her current kids, and I thought that was kind of interesting for his character, but you also know from watching the other films in the franchise that he's always loved Bridget Jones deep down, but it never worked for them because their lifestyles were so different. But it is nice to see that he is still in her life consistently. You do also have a ton of familiar faces throughout the runtime of this movie as well. Right from the get-go, right in the beginning of the movie, you're like, what is this? Is this the Bridget Jones fan service movie? Because there's just so many shout outs and throwbacks to the original franchise that you might actually be surprised. This doesn't feel like a one-off movie just because they wanted to do it. It actually feels legitimately like a film that was almost necessary to end everything out with. I will say that the previous film, Bridget Jones' Baby, I hardly remember that. I think of that as a unnecessary film, and it almost felt lost, you know? Like it didn't really understand how to be Bridget Jones anymore. And there was just something about that movie that I found incredibly forgettable. So I was hesitant, to say the least, when it came down to this Mad About a Boy film, getting rid of Colin Firth's character, making her date this younger guy. It felt so wrong to me. But at the same time, once you start watching it, you do understands so much about why this is happening, and in a big way why it had to be done. And it's so weird for me to say this, but I legitimately think that this is one of the better Bridget Jones movies. Nothing's gonna touch Bridget Jones 1 and 2. Those are just so close in atmosphere and attitude and humor and character growth, basically, that nothing's ever gonna touch them. But this comes darn close for a couple of reasons. One is because it has the same structure as those first two Bridget Jones movies. Yes, they have new characters here with some younger guys in the mix, but they're very similar in character that Hugh Grant and Colin Firth were. You got one really fun, adventurous, sexy guy, and then you also have another guy with a stick up his butt, but is also incredibly considerate and loving and surprising when it comes down to his character growth. Basically, you first meet him and you're like, oh God, this guy is gonna be a pain in the butt. And then you're like, well, you know what? I did see the other Bridget Jones movies, and the guy with a stick up his butt is usually the guy you're gonna end up rooting for, and it's kind of the same thing here as well. So you're not gonna get anything incredibly new or fresh or original in this movie. But I will say that when you're stepping away from the plot line regarding romance, regarding this young guy in her life, and you're actually focusing on the heart of the film, it's one of the best of Bridget Jones' history because of that. There's an emotional core in Mad About a Boy that is unlike any of the other Bridget Jones films. There's a maturity there. I mean, the comedy is still there. It's still relevant. It still made me chuckle quite a bit while watching the movie, just like the other Bridget Jones films had. But the heartfelt moments and the message in there about grief and coming to terms with losing a loved one, not just for Bridget Jones, but also for her kids and how they adapt to that. And also for these younger guys and how they're dealing with things in their own life and how they see the afterlife and how they see souls in general, and how that all kind of connects to each other at the end of the day, makes this film a pretty darn solid Bridget Jones movie. I think that Renee Zellweger, in her older age, I think that she has really come into that maturity I suppose. I think that Bridget Jones' Baby, they were trying to do that, but they couldn't quite grasp it because they didn't have the emotional core to do it in the first place. So it was like a combination of the two, and it was just not jiving. This one jived. This one works. If you're a fan of Bridget Jones, especially Bridget Jones 1 and 2, I think legitimately you will have fun with the movie. No, it's not going to be Bridget Jones 1 or 2. It will never be that. But this is pretty darn close. It is very, very close in my opinion. If I were to rate it, I would honestly give it probably a solid B. You know, it is doing exactly what it set out to do in the first place, and that deserves praise all in and of itself. It is a funny film. It has a lot of shout outs to those movies in the past. It has an emotional core that you're going to connect with and maybe even tear up a little bit. Because you know what? At the end of the day, they didn't kill off Colin Firth's character because he couldn't be in the movie. He's in the movie as, you know, a memory or not a ghost, but, you know, part of Bridget Jones' soul and her entire idea that after people die, they are always with you. So she sees him, or she sees what it would be like if he were still around. And so Colin Firth, as an actor, he's still in the movie. So it's not like he didn't agree to be in it. It's just that narratively, the movie probably couldn't be made without him being gone. In order for her to have this self-actualization and self-journey of acceptance of being, you know, a mom, being single in a way, not needing to depend on this guy who she loves with all her heart in order to keep going. And there's just enough heart in the film, I think, for you to connect with, and a surprising amount of humor as well. So again, if you haven't seen it, go ahead and check it out. I would really like to hear your thoughts on this one and how you compare it to the other Bridget Jones films. I think overall it is worth the watch if you're a fan of those movies. If you've never seen those movies, however, there's no real reason or argument to be made to watch this one. There just isn't. You won't get anything out of it. But if you have, and if you're a fan of those films, go ahead, check out this movie and tell me your thoughts about it in the comment section down below. And as for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit the like, subscribe button, and bell to be notified when I come out with my next movie review, whenever or whatever that may be on. And until then, peace out.